It's truly a great honor to speak with you today, and I acknowledge that we're able to do this as we sit on the borrowed lands of the Wampanoag and Narragansett people. We also have benefited from a university that itself benefited both directly and indirectly from the transatlantic slave trade, whose ancestors have not been compensated. We should be mindful of the past and commit ourselves to anti-racism as we discuss the future. Before we begin, I would also like to pause for a brief moment of silence. This has been a difficult year for us all, and I hope we can take a personal moment to reflect on those who cannot be here, those close to you whom you may have lost, or those you wish you would have known. Thank you. And welcome to your last required lecture of medical school. And welcome to all the faculty and staff who made this possible. Dr. Elias, thank you for your relentless commitment to our school. With you at the helm, we have ushered in new paradigms in research and clinical education that have benefited not just our medical school community, but researchers and physicians across the Brown Network. Dr. Tunkel, we desperately wish you were here with us today. You've been such a steady hand during a tumultuous 4 years. You've seen us through great challenges, and you treated us with understanding, respect, and compassion. You did this all while weathering your own storms. We have not been an easy charge for you. This we know. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Dr. Warrior, you've been alongside us during the whole medical school endeavor. Your work, along with your predecessor, Dr. George, has advanced our curriculum in revolutionary ways. Your tireless advocacy for students has also propelled us through uncertain times. You are indispensable, and we wish you nothing but success in your new role. Dr. Vries, you have been omnipresent in our class's clinical years and our steps towards residency. You were instrumental in seeing that we met our goals, and you were invaluable in providing us the support we asked for and the support we did not know we needed. In addition, your predecessor, Jordan White, deserves warm mention as she was integral in that deanship. Her scheduled walks and open door were greatly appreciated. Dr. Domenko, or should I say Luba, I could not think of a better person to welcome us to AMS. You cared for our education. Your joyful approach to teaching and mentorship has left reverberations throughout our community, and we wish you well in your retirement. Jeff Cooley, Julian Iguchi, Drs. Rugas and Alicio, and all the staff of clinical skills education and doctoring, including the IT department, thank you for building us into the almost doctors you see today. Through your program, your seemingly never-ending OSCEs, our exams, our shelf exams, even our board exams, which included your troubleshooting of malfunctioning devices, we are stronger as a result of your dedication to us. Alex Meringue and Kelly Whalen, are you sure you're not licensed therapists? I really don't know what to say. Your commitment, your continued, your commitment to our training and residency, your enthusiasm, your conscientiousness, your obvious zeal for our futures were invaluable to us as we navigated the residency process. So regardless of the outcome, we thank you and owe you a debt of gratitude. I have not mentioned everybody here, but to all in the medical school, we recognize that we did not accomplish this feat alone. Everyone in the Office of Medical Education, Student Affairs, Admissions, Marcy Walsh, I'm looking at you, and every other corner of the medical school, thank you for your tireless efforts for keeping us on track. To security and the incredible custodial staff, thank you for keeping us safe and healthy. Thank you for the late night chats and the heads up on where to find free food. It is impossible to imagine the medical school without all of you. I would next like to welcome friends and family who are tuning in not just across the country, but all over the world. Thank you for truly everything. As I mentioned, we did not achieve this alone. Your support has been essential to us, and it is not always easy to support someone who is taking on a Leviathan task like medical school. We recognize this challenge, and we are grateful for your faith in us. While we would love for you to be here with us in this underground bunker in an undisclosed location, we know that staying safe is of the utmost importance. Your presence here while virtual is only further indication of your dedication to us, and we can only hope to one day live up to your example. Now, class of 2021. This day has been a long time coming. I remember our first day. The medical school atrium was filled with nervous laughter. MD20 Fun was born, or MD20 Ron, or I believe our group me is now called Aries season. Today, hopefully our laughter is a little more buoyant and a little more at ease. Over 4 years, we have settled into our own community. We've experienced joy and hardship, elation and pain. We have seen friendships blossom and develop. We have seen marriages and new babies and new pets brought into our family. We have seen relationships bloom. We've lost loved ones, and we have passed milestones together. We said goodbye to those who left our class to pursue research or time with families, and we welcomed those who came in after time away. Moreover, we have grown together. While the years of medical school have a tendency to pass quickly, they pass heavily. We have all flourished and transformed as we approach this day, so I only hope we can look around at one another and be satisfied that we arrived here together. I come to you today as what some might call a career changer. I'm not sure if Sydney made that clear. I know it was a little ambiguous. But unlike the students for the Program for Liberal Medical Education, and I will not admit how long it took me to look up what PLEME stands for, I did not know at 17 that I wanted to be a doctor. It took me 8 years after graduate college to come to Brown's doors and continue this amazing journey. Actually, as an aside, when I applied to college initially, Brown rejected me. So all is forgiven. But I cannot offer any rare or privileged insights unless it's the best place for dumpster diving or how to get the best deal on Craigslist. All I can offer is to portray our world as I see it and to hopefully give us a little push as we make it our own. And so when preparing this speech, I tried to ask myself a very simple, very esoteric, very self-serving question. What defines medicine in its complete form? In effect, what did we learn to do these past 4 years? We know that medicine is more than simply solving a problem or checking a box or answering a multiple choice question. We know it contains science and deductive reasoning. But as I thought more, it became obvious that woven through this tapestry, medicine encompasses it all. An understanding and appreciation of humanity, joy and humor, vulnerability, grief, advocacy, and righteousness. And that itself, I believe, is the genesis of art. If we want to succeed in mastering this profession, we must be scholars of it all. We must dedicate ourselves to appreciating, understanding, and probing every component of healing. We must be scholars of the human condition. As we align ourselves with an understanding of the human condition, we should be aware of what exactly it is. And there lies the problem, because there really is no one definition. How can we actually comprehend the totality of the experience of being human and simultaneously reconcile our roles as stewards of it? It will certainly be essential for us to distill a human being and their ailments down in order to understand them and treat them with the greatest sense of humanity. As I see it, the human condition in the medical context is simply composed of the person before you, if you can call that simple. It includes their medical needs, their fears, their triumphs, their power, their hopes, and their desires, all informing each other as a tangled web. We physicians owe it to that patient not just to be well-versed in their pathology or the disease course. Of course, patients need this from us as well. They will need competent doctors, and there's no substitute for clinical and medical knowledge. But I argue that competency does not end at the diagnosis or the interpretation of BMP or CBC, as I'm sure you all would agree. And those are lab tests for the non-medical people watching today. It requires an emotional proficiency, a readiness to recognize nonverbal cues, a restful compassion, the fortitude to decide when to pull back on treatment, or the strength to make a tough call and to live with that decision. In essence, scholarship of the human condition implies not only the grasp of physiology, pathology, and anatomy, but the fluid understanding of personhood. We have begun this process. In our first 2 years, we were taught trauma-informed care. We practiced taking uncomfortable histories. We practiced giving bad news. We then lived that experience and were forced to reckon with its effects on our psyches. We felt ourselves come alive when we connected with patients in our care, and we started to find our clinical voices buried under the rubble of the Step 1 clinical or Step 1 board exam. Yet we also had end-of-life conversations, dealt with child abuse cases. We helped treat people who reminded us of our own family members. Some of us had to care for patients who did not respect them in that role. Through it all, we developed the intuition to anticipate problems. We sought the right words to ask the right questions. and we turned our ears towards answers we did not want to hear. We saw disparities in care. We saw how race, gender, sexual orientation, and housing status affected both access to and quality of care received. This is the human condition in all of its messiness, and we've just begun our understanding of it. But how do we derive art from this? Because we often hear the term the art of medicine, as it seems to represent the intangible components of our work as physicians. These components are obviously vital, yet the art component of medicine often seems to be used as a stand-in for the less concrete elements of our contract. We too often imply that being a good listener and being compassionate are what define the art of medicine, and stop short of grasping for what truly engenders artistry in our efforts. So, when and how does what we do become art? Or more specifically, how do we achieve artistry in our work? I tend to believe that artistry emerges when our endeavors transcend rote study, when what we offer the world comes from both what we have learned and did not have to learn. Achieving artistry is about our attitude towards our work and a stance on our actions. As we reflect on how to provide care that addresses the human condition as a whole, we will find that artistry in this pursuit is about using our talents and ingenuity and combining them with passion to leave the world better and more beautiful than it was before. Our art as physicians is at once a reflection of our world and values, a comment on what we experience, and an intervention into that domain. The artistry applied to this work intuits an aspect that is unattainable by traditional education, a personal spark that elevates our efforts to the sublime. When we produce art in our work, we sacrifice our own ego, our personal observing eye, as we inch towards selflessness. In the end, artistry is what separates what we feel obligated to do from what we love to do. It is far more than listening to the words left unsaid in a clinical encounter, coordinating complex care for someone in need, or holding a patient's hand as they slip from our mortal constraints. The art of medicine is, of course, those things, but it is also our internal glimmer for our mission, our abandonment of pretense, and our sacrifice to our cause that raises aloft our pursuit of healing. As public servants, our patients deserve no less than this form of scholarship. We've seen too many examples of physicians without a drive to attain such artistry, those who were competent but did not care. Conversely, we as medical students have at times lived the excruciating reality of being caring, but lacking the attained knowledge to follow through and light our internal spark. Our profession demands all aspects to the self and the patient. This is quite a task. Be competent doctors, develop a deep understanding of the human condition, and maintain that inherent drive that transforms our work into the divine. That seems impossible, and to an extent it is, because this will be a sacrifice. Naturally, with artistry in our work, with us donning the robes of public service, sacrifice will be a sober reality. To devote our lives to healing necessitates it. I believe we should embrace this sacrifice, for coming to terms with it will allow us to define it. We will lose sleep. Distance will grow in some of our relationships, possibly with friends and family. We will miss important moments. We will be forced to ask for forgiveness. This is all normal in moderation. We must accept these painful realities and find way to derive joy from time donated to our careers from other aspects of our lives. Of course, this does not mean we should lose ourselves in our profession. To do so would threaten our ability to create our art, with our patients eventually shouldering the burden when our spark is extinguished. Let us set clear boundaries for the sacrifices we are willing to make, and which would be a bridge too far. Those margins will differ by person, but their purpose will be the same. We must be able to clearly define when too much of ourselves is lost to the process. So let us not immediately confuse being tired, being frustrated, being angry, or being overwhelmed with being burned out. Recall that internal spark, that inherent artistry imbued in our work. Creating a balance between sacrifice and self-preservation will allow us to maintain our own humanity as we strive to sustain the humanity of others. This being our last required lecture, it's fitting to point out that we as a class are not whole in the same sense as our first required lecture. Along the way, members of our class stepped away for a variety of reasons. Some took time to pursue their research, aiming to return with a greater perspective on their roles in their chosen fields. Some left to pursue degrees in public health, global health, and business, working to become better physician advocates for their communities. Some took time away to be with family or the children they brought into the world. One of our own is writing the next great novel. Others left simply because their passions resided outside of medicine. All should be lauded for their thoughtfulness and boldness to pursue what drives them. And of course, our community is no stranger to tragedy. Aisling Galligan and Jack Riddell cannot be here today, though we are honored to be joined virtually by their families. With the awarding of their posthumous medical doctorates, we could not be prouder to share ours with theirs today. Their memories and the marks on all of our character will forever be with us, as I'm certain a little piece of Aisling and Jack will be leaving with each one of us today. While the world will sadly never know their artistry as physicians directly, their time with us has and will continue to motivate all of us in our practice. And that will be their contribution to medicine. The inspiration of 119 young doctors fanning out to pass on their gifts of dedication, generosity, and compassion. We remember Aisling as a stunningly intelligent person with a warm heart. She was effortlessly cool under pressure, and I would know because she was in my second year doctoring group, and we had a very difficult group. She was unfailingly kind and was perennially invested in those around her. She was passionate about her tuberculosis research in Eastern Europe, forging many connections across the world. About a week before she passed, I sent her an email to check in and say hello and let her know I was thinking about her. In her reply, she mentioned her wonderful family and friends, and also that she hoped my third year was going well. The fact that in those moments, she could find the compassion to give a damn about my third year experience is a remarkable testament to her character. But that was who she was. She was genuinely outwardly caring. We also remember Jack as another bright light that graced our presence. He too was intelligent, noticeably more so than those around him, as his list of publications attests to. And he had the most fluent ability for disarming kindness of anyone I had ever met. There are a multitude of people sitting in front of me today and former patients all over Providence who could each tell a story of how Jack touched their lives, how he listened, how he cared, how he made them feel at ease. I first met him at a social get-together after one of our exams in first year. He was beaming at me from across the room, and he seemed to be dancing, but there really wasn't any music playing. I could not understand why he was smiling at me. I approached him, and as it turns out, he was smiling because we had not yet met. He was genuinely that excited to meet a stranger. And so, to all here and watching today who've experienced the pain of losing Aisling, Jack, or someone else close to you, I cannot profess to have any special knowledge on the early loss of a loved one. However, I do look at grief as a winding trail that one must walk. The trail contains burdensome climbs, weighed down by sorrow for those lost, yet upon reaching soaring passes, it gives way to wildflowers and the sweet memories of those we are privileged to love. The path is nonlinear, and it is unpredictable. It is impossible to know what each day on the trail will look like. However, one never walks that trail alone. While we cannot truly know one another's grief, we can and will walk beside one another as we summon the will for a steep ascent or rejoice in a pleasant pasture of cherished remembrance. You are not alone, and we are not alone. From my vantage, I see an entire family, a wild, funny, brilliant, dysfunctional family who are linked inextricably together on this journey. And so now that we are here, facing the realities of being physicians, facing the joys and privileges and heavy burdens that come with this life of purpose, it is suitable to ask, where do we go from here? Let this serve as a call to action. Whatever our interests and passions may be, harnessing their pull over us will allow us to keep the artistry alive in our work and to serve the human condition in its complete form. Every one of us here has already conducted research or made their mark on the field of medicine. There are those amongst us who created an app to assess for Parkinsonian symptoms, those who evaluated cellular components of patients undergoing cardiothoracic surgery. Some created a self-isolation hotel for people experiencing housing insecurity during the pandemic. Some conducted research on opioid use and medical malpractice. Students created a digital resource hub for patients with multiple sclerosis. They evaluated Tibetan medical education and indications for how to implement those practices in the West. Thanks to student outreach and research, pastors in Brazil are now using their pulpit to encourage HIV testing amongst their congregants. Some in our class advanced in understanding of child trafficking, gun violence, and housing insecure respite care. We helped identify pitfalls in historical race-based medicine and worked to advance a curriculum always supported by evidence. We also served our community, playing key roles in community clinics like Clinica Esperanza, and participated in outreach and social justice campaigns. We were integral, and we will remain integral. We must make it our drive to nurture these passions, to keep them rooted in the fire and spirit from which they came within us. This past year has been difficult. It has brought pain in quantities and qualities immeasurable. It has laid bare realities in policing and unequal justice already too well known to communities of color across our country. We've also been confronted by shamefully gaping medical disparities exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 has been described as the great equalizer. And while individual pain experienced across diverse communities can certainly feel similar, there is nothing equal about the distribution of cases and deaths. Communities of color, as a result of racist societal and governmental structures, have shouldered a greater burden in contracting COVID-19 and have had fewer options in terms of treatment. Moreover, we bore witness to how the color of one's skin or any other characteristic used by power structures to marginalize individual communities can affect the medical care they receive. In response to these affronts, both viral and societal, members of our class led White Coats for Black Lives protests at the Capitol, across Providence, and beyond. We took on advocacy work for underrepresented communities in Providence and beyond. We called our congresspersons and senators. We registered people to vote. We used our privileged position as medical students for good in the hopes of transforming our community into a better place to live and be heard. During the pandemic, we worked with the Rhode Island Department of Health on contact tracing. We spearheaded coordination with the Rhode Island National Guard. We established networks to assist first responders in their lives that they had to abandon outside the hospital. But also remember that we've accomplished a great deal, not just in the past year, but in our entire time here. I hope that we reflect earnestly on these feats and see the art we created around us, for that is what will guide us. We must also recognize our collective power as a diverse group of caring souls. Regardless of our skin color, or gender identity, or sexual orientation, or ethnicity, or physical ability, or neurodiversity, and all intersections thereof, let us be true allies to each other's cause. It will be not just our job, but our very charge to live those words and to attack any structure that represses the humanity of others. We are armed with probing minds, trained in seeking truth through noise. Let us not forget that our greatest asset to the causes we care about is our ability to find objectivity in our deepest felt emotions and to train that on ushering in change. Language matters, but we must also not confuse big words with meaningful progress, as our work is never done once the conversation is started. And the same skepticism we give, for example, to antiquated medical assumptions should be applied from time to time to our own beliefs as they age. We must challenge our own heuristics, especially when they are informed by our closest held values. To never turn our analytical lens inward would be nothing short of negligent. We must engage with uncomfortable facts when they emerge and compose our advocacy and our solutions with the best available evidence. We should always be challenging ourselves to prove what we believe to be true, because our ability to enact change in the arenas we care about depends on it. We may not always agree on how to achieve the goals of a more perfect, more just, more kind-hearted society. Yet I hold on to the belief that we are at least arguing from a shared idealism, a shared ambition, and a deep desire to see the best for everyone and each other's respectful intersectional communities. However, we are human and we are prone to insecurity. As my final message to you all, and yes, my final message, know this: when we doubt ourselves in the face of all of our accomplishments, we are imposters only to our own greatness. We must be confident in what we know, yet humble enough to accept what we do not. And beyond that acceptance, we must thirst to learn more, to seek out and cradle nuance, to be better, to do better. There is art of unparalleled beauty in there, but only if we devote ourselves to achieving it. In this vein, the Socratic paradox comes to mind, because it's Greek, like me. Enida oti, udenida. I know that I know nothing. In essence, I neither know nor think that I know. Perhaps that is the highest form of knowledge. If we forget that we are always incomplete vessels for truth, then we will fool ourselves into a false sense of wisdom. For stagnation awaits us later in our careers when we feel our capacity for knowledge is exhausted, but in reality, it is our capacity for artistry that is drained. It is this ebb in the current, this very complacency that saps our abilities as true scholars of the human condition. And if we are truly always learning, let us retain hope to be proven wrong by a younger, more thoughtful, more diverse generation of physicians. When the time comes, let us clear the way and open the gates to their ideas. We will never have all the answers, but we can always have the clear eyes to seek them out. In our careers, may they be long and fruitful, we will be wrong. We will undoubtedly practice medicine that will change as we continue to push the envelope of understanding in our fields. Our humility will carry us through. And when our generation is judged by our practices and our medical theories, I only hope that we can assuredly say that we tried our best, we were confident, we advocated for our patients to the best of our understanding, and when we were wrong, we changed. So if there was a message that I would give to future physicians being born today, it would be to judge us. When it is their turn to join this privileged calling, they ought to judge our record, to judge our progress, and judge our inertia to change. While today we are the new generation of physicians, we will inevitably become the old guard. May we take with us our scholarship, our capacity for improvement, and yes, our innate spark of artistry that transforms our work into an exalted cause. Medicine has a habit of becoming a job. Our approach will keep it a mission. Thank you.